Bonjour mon petit chiffre, Amber here. It is February. It is Black History Month. Let's sit down and talk about the books I'm hoping to read this month. I don't want to do a very long intro. I just want to get in, get through these books, get out, keep it pushing. Sorry about that. I just kicked the tripod. First and foremost, let's talk about the books that are carrying over from January. There are 3 of them. The first of which is kind of, it's not cheating. I was just supposed to film this video yesterday, as well as the day before that and the day before that. But I didn't, and I ended up finishing this yesterday afternoon, and it's Of Orcas and Men, What Killer Whales Can Teach Us by David Nieworth. If you don't know, I'm currently working my way through a personal curriculum where I'm studying whales. And for the past 3 weeks, I have specifically been studying orcas, which are my favorite animals in the world, by the way. So this has been such a fun journey, and I'm kind of like really sad that come Monday I will be moving on to the next whale. I love belugas, I really do, but I feel like, one, I haven't learned enough. I don't know, it's not enough. I'm not ready to move on. But and also, like I said, I love belugas. I love the other whales that I will be studying. I love whales. But are any of these other whales as absolutely insanely fascinating the way orcas are? Anyway, Of Orcas and Men is the first book off of this syllabus that I've finished. This isn't a wrap-up. This was supposed to be a book that I'm supposed to be finishing in February. The first week of February was like the last week to finish this book, but I had such a good time with this book. I learned so much about orcas and just their communities, their culture, their socialization and behavior, and just like multiple orcas throughout the years that have been like well known and well researched. Okay, also from my whale stack, I'm reading Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Now, I know I'm kind of on a classic kick at the moment. I have quite a few that I have on my like priority list for not just this year but this year, and like just going forward. Moby Dick, I don't know, was never really one that I cared whether or not I actually read. I don't know, I think I just never really liked the idea of the whale being villainized and hunted down so viciously. But putting together this curriculum and this syllabus, this book comes up a lot, especially when it comes to like people researching or like what has led or tied their love of whales, or their fascination with whales. It's usually Moby Dick or Free Willy. I'm in the latter half. Like, these are the 2 of the most famous works of fiction surrounding whales. So I figured if there was ever a time that I would do it, it should be now. One, I didn't realize how large this book was until I held it in my hands. I didn't realize how much of a story we were getting. This is not the copy that I ordered when I ordered the rest of my books for this syllabus. The rest of the books, the rest of my whale stack are all from thrift books. I found them all from thrift books. In fact, I have a copy of Moby Dick that I did order, and it did not come in the condition that it was advertised as, so I just went ahead and just ordered the Penguin Deluxe edition of Moby Dick. I love these covers, the Penguin Deluxe edition. I cannot wait to just have all of them. I have 3 now. My Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights are both also from this set, these editions. What? So I have my tabs set up that each indicate the weeks from the start of the curriculum to the end of the curriculum. And I've perfectly divided out my time reading this book. I'm currently 98 pages in. We've made a little bit of progress, if I do say so myself. We're finally on the ship. We're finally on the boat. Am I on 98? No, I'm aiming for 98. I lied. I'm not. I'm on page I had sat down to start reading before I filmed this. I'm on page 86. I lied. Still not bad, but we are on the boat. We're on the Pequod, is that what it's called? Is that the one I chose? And it took, I spent a lot of this book like, all right, where's the whale? All right, where's the boat? If you don't know, I'm pretty sure Moby Dick is following the main character Ishmael. He joins this crew on this whaling ship, and I think they're attacked by a sperm whale, and then the captain becomes absolutely obsessed with exacting vengeance on this whale and killing this whale, and somehow that is almost 700 pages of a book, if you say so. So we have the design. I think this is supposed to be Queequeg, who is Ishmael's bestie, if you catch my drift, and this is probably supposed to be Ishmael. But yeah, it reads easier than I expected, but at the same time I am so glad that I'm taking my time, like taking so much time reading this book, because this book was published in sometime in the early 1800s. And so my brain always needs a little bit of time to like adjust to the English being used here, the way the English language is used at that time. But yeah, we're reading Moby Dick. The third carryover from January, which is also a carryover from December, I am currently listening to A Winter's Promise by Christelle DeBeau, which is the first of the Mirror Visitor quartet, which is translated from French. I read the first book for the first time in 2021, I believe, and I loved it. It's so fun and whimsical. It follows a girl, Ophelia, who lives in this world that are set on like these arc type, not planets, but like arcs, and you travel between them. I'm not going to do it justice, but she's engaged to this man who is standoffish, aloof, and rude, and neither of them wants to be in this arrangement. She has this ability to read the history of objects by touch. Off the top of my head, I don't really remember a ton of like the details of this book, but I do remember I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, and I've obviously wanted to continue the series since then. I just haven't gotten around to do that, and I decided I cannot go farther without finishing this series. I intended to at least be finished the first book by December, or by the end of December, because I ideally would want to finish A Winter's Promise in winter, or let alone the entire series. I'm sure the entire series isn't all like wintry books, but the series itself, to me, I guess because I've only read the first book, has a winter vibe. So ideally I'd finish the whole series at some point during the winter. I don't think that's going to happen though, but I want to at least finish the first two before spring. I'm maybe halfway through the audiobook. I think I have, let me see if I can find where I'm at. I'm currently listening to it on 1.2 speed. That's like a good place for my focus at the moment. I'm on chapter 17 and I have 6 hours and 47 minutes left, and I'm once again really enjoying the book. When I'm able to sit down and listen to it and just really focus on it, I wish I had more time to like really focus and dedicate just hours to really consuming the book, but this is just like the brush up period so that I can go into book 2. Now let's start my actual February Black History Month blackety black melanated books, right? I have quite a stack next to me. Now they're all not, I know I'm not getting through all of these books. It's kind of broken up in definites and possibilities, and then we have like possibilities and maybe. We'll see. They're by Black authors, so I'm going to put them in this list as possibilities. So The first definite is another kind of cheat because I was supposed to film this video days ago and I finished this book in like 2 days. And it's If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin. I finally read my second Baldwin. I was meant to read this in December as well and then I just never got around to it. So I knew I needed to prioritize it. I wanted to read it last month, but as I was continuously not getting around to it, I was like, you know what? Why don't I just save it for Black History Month? And this book follows Tish and her experience. She's new at the beginning of the book. She's recently discovered that she's pregnant, and this is the journey following her and her family dealing with and trying to get her fiance out of prison for a rape that he did not commit. And this takes place in the 70s in New York, and it's a love story. It's a beautiful love story on top, but it's also a story of family. It's a story of life in New York in the 70s. It's a story of the absolute struggles that Black people have and continue to face in this country, and with the criminal justice, I'm heavily quoting, system. And it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's heartbreaking and also hopeful, and just like I'm obsessed with the family dynamic. Tish's family in this book, Fonny's family can die in a hole. Yeah, it's just, I've read 2 James Baldwin books at this point, this and Giovanni's Room. This is by far my favorite of the 2. This is such an easy book to consume. I love James Baldwin's prose. Girl, you're not telling anybody anything new. It's a lot packed into a little, and it's layered but also so simple, and just I had a really good time with this. But I was meant to film this, so like just pretend that I haven't read it yet, and oh my god, I hope I like it. The next book I definitely am going to read this month, and probably will start as soon as I finish this, is The Dating Prohibition by Taj McCoy. I mentioned this in my big romance book haul I posted like a couple months ago. This follows Kendra. It says, in this spicy new rom-com, an ambitious entrepreneur working to get her speakeasy supper club off the ground is pushed off balance when her childhood crush turns up hotter than ever, then tells her she's off limits. Now that Kendra's returned home, she can't help feeling like a kid again, back in her big brother's shadow, trying to get her restaurant off the ground while his new venture is flying high right out the gate. It doesn't help that everyone refuses to stop calling her Kiki, the childhood nickname she loathes. The only bright spot is her longtime crush, BJ. He's been her big brother's best friend for most of her life, and he's always been that cool, chill guy who is easy to talk to and made her laugh. Now he's looking at her like she's all grown up, and there's nothing childish about the chemistry brewing between them. Even better, he takes her dreams seriously, and he's ready to help her make her supper club a reality. But then BJ extinguishes the sparks flying between them, insisting nothing romantic can ever happen because she's off limits. As her investors fall through and her best chance of fulfilling her professional dreams points toward leaving home again for a fresh start, will BJ be ready for love before Kendra moves on? Or will he sweep her off her feet when she least expects it? Yeah, period. Law grad Taj McCoy is committed to championing plus-size Black love stories. Period. Great. I am in need of a nice romance. Much like when I read If Beale Street Could Talk, I recently finished The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, which means I've recently finished the Poppy War trilogy, and my god, was it a lot. That last book was a lot. I have a lot of conflicting feelings, a lot of feelings I need desperately to detach from and move on from, and I know for the foreseeable future I'm going to need lighter, softer, less aggressive books. So that's part of the reason why I picked up Beale Street when I did. I know this is the book that I need at the moment. This is what I can handle right now. So I'm hoping that I love this as much and it's as good as it sounds like it's going to be. So the final book that is a definite that I know I'm going to read this month is a book I picked up on my last trip to the bookstore. I went in there like wanting to see what sale, one of the last sales that was going on. I think it might still be going on actually at Barnes & Noble, where it's like up to 50% off most of the books in the store. I wanted to see like how many books off of my yearly TBR or books I was like interested in owning I could find. I left with like 5 or 6 books I've never heard of before going into the bookstore, and this is one of them. Oh, I think it's actually new. Recently came out in 2025, but it's a nonfiction book and it's Madness, Race and Insanity in a Jim Crow Asylum by Antonia Hilton. And this was one of the books that was like right at one of the first tables when I walked in, and I was doing a loop and it caught my eye, and the synopsis grabbed me as well. So it says, a page-turning 93-year history of Crownsville Hospital, one of the nation's last segregated asylums. And honestly, that's something I never really properly have thought about, like asylums during the Jim Crow era, and just like mental health and mental illness in these like mental health establishments during segregation and Jim Crow, and how these institutionalized people were treated. I know what healthcare and mental health and being black, I know what in 2026, so like I can't imagine how disturbing a lot of the content of this book is going to be, most likely. I mean, the back of the book is, on a cold day in March of 1911, officials marched 12 black men into the heart of a forest in Maryland. Under the supervision of a doctor, the men were forced to clear the land, pour cement, lay bricks, and harvest tobacco. When construction finished, they became the first 12 patients of the state's hospital for the Negro insane. For centuries, black patients have been absent from our history books. Madness transports readers behind the brick walls of a Jim Crow asylum. Emmy Award-winning correspondent and anchor of MSNBC's The Weekend, Antonia Hilton, tells the 93-year history of Crownsville Hospital, one of the last segregated asylums with surviving records and a campus that still stands to this day in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. She blends the intimate tales of patients and employees whose lives were shaped by Crownsville with a decade worth of investigative research and archival documents. Madness is a captivating and heartbreaking meditation on how America decides who is sick or criminal, who is worthy of our care, and who is irredeemable. Yeah. So next we move into the possibilities pile. The first of which is a sequel to one of my favorite books, the best books I read last year. It's Eternal Ruin by Tigges Girma, which is the sequel to Immortal Dark. We know how much I love Immortal Dark. We know how much Immortal Dark rocked me. Briefly, if you don't know, Immortal Dark is a YA fantasy, a YA dark academia that follows Kitten Adania, who basically has to go to this academy, Uxley Academy, to find out the truth about her missing sister. She has committed some heinous things to track down the person who she believes is responsible for her sister's disappearance, and it happens to be the vampire who is sworn and attached to her family. She comes from a world, she's like the last heir of her house in this society that has like sort of like ancestral attachments to this particular to vampires. I'm not describing this well, but this brings in Suseño Sagad, who is their house, the Adania house vampire, and he is refusing to relinquish his hold on the claim on the house. And this book is for my enemies to question mark is how Tigges describes it. It's for my girlies who love a villain. I've always said when I hear a book is supposed to be dark and bloody and violent, this is what, well, Immortal Dark is what I'm expecting, right? And this is for the ones who wants their enemies to whatever to be enemies at the start, because wow, do they hate each other, but also wow, you know, there's an artistry in the writing. And this is the sequel. I am so excited to see where this book is going. I'm nervous, if you will. But to properly prepare, I'm going to have to reread Immortal Dark. Oh no, what such a burden on my spirit. I'm most likely going to listen to the audiobook. Oh no, that's such a hassle. Why would you ask me to do such a thing? But also, this is gorgeous. This is my signed edition. I got to meet Tigges back in November when the book came out at the New York launch. Yeah, let's move on. So the next book is another fantasy, like a more like sci-fi leaning fantasy. I truthfully don't know a ton, but it's The King Must Die by Kimi Ashingiwa. I won this in a giveaway recently. No matter how many times I read the synopsis, it will not stick in my head. I'm so sorry, but that's a me problem. It's a pulse-pounding science fiction adventure about empire, rebellion, and impossible choices. So our main character Finn's world is dying. Once a promising planet gifted by the Sorry, the mailman doesn't believe in headphones apparently, so he'll come in here every day with his little boombox blasting. But this happens to be one of my favorite Mariah Carey songs, so I'll let that go. Anyway, once a promising planet gifted by the all-powerful alien makers failed terraforming has left New Earth a withered husk. Ever since her parents failed rebellion against the ruthless sovereign, Finn has been forced to serve as a bodyguard for a cunning magistrate. But when her long-imprisoned fathers are executed and Finn is marked for the same fate, she is forced to flee. Armed with only a map in her quarterstaff, Finn seeks out the remnants of the rebellion army. Unfortunately, the insurgents she finds are nearly as much of a threat to themselves as the Imperial forces. Then she stumbles upon Alakai, the sovereign heir, a master manipulator and with a dangerous secret. Though he embodies everything Finn despises, she will do anything, even work with him, to give New Earth one last chance at survival. And it's rare that I'll read a like sci-fi book, right? And sometimes I do struggle with them, but I'm intrigued. I'm very much intrigued. So the next book is a book that I know I'm gonna read this year, but I still don't think I am actually ready for it. And this is what I mean when I say this is a book that's like, I'm gonna put it on this list, but I probably won't read it this month. And it's The Good House by Tananarive Due, author of The Reformatory, which is another one of my favorite books of 2025. I read The Reformatory in October of 2025 when I was doing my Sinners reading vlog. And that book shattered me in so many ways. So I know that I'm not ready for this book, especially like I said, because of what my brain needs right now after finishing The Poppy War. I don't think I can handle this book right now. Who knows when we get further into February. Also, this print is absolutely tiny. Now, this book is a haunted house book. I'm quoting because while I won't talk like I know the whole series, but I'm going to talk about just from my knowledge of The Reformatory. That book is a horror book. It's pitched as a horror book. It's pitched as a book that deals with like haunts, ghosts, and there are a lot of like paranormal elements. However, the horror in that book is humanity. It is racism and white supremacy and just cruelty and just the horrific things that people do. There's a quote in that book that's like, I believe in the devil, but humans don't need Satan to do the horrific things that they do. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the consensus of that perfectly encapsulates the reformatory. So I have no doubt that this is going to be in a similar vein. This is a sort of haunted house story where the main character, I believe, is like returning to her grandmother's home or like her family home. The home belonged to Angela Toussaint's late grandmother. The home that belonged to Angela Toussaint's late grandmother is so beloved that townspeople in Sacagawea, Washington, call it the good house. But that all changes one summer when an unexpected tragedy takes place behind its closed doors, and the Toussaint family's history and future is dramatically transformed. Angela has not returned to the good house since her son Corey died there 2 years ago, but now Angela is finally ready to return to her hometown and go beyond the grave to unearth the truth about Corey's death. Could it be related to a terrifying entity Angela's grandmother battled 7 decades ago? And what about the other senseless calamities that Sacagawea has seen in recent years? Has Angela's grandmother, an African-American woman reputed to have powers, put a curse on the entire community? A thrilling exploration of secrets, lies, and divine inspiration, The Good House will haunt readers long after its chilling conclusion. The reformatory still haunts me, so I know that for a fact. Okay, the last two are books that I got from the same shopping trip, the same bookstore trip that I got Madness. So these are also books that I hadn't heard of until that day at the bookstore. The first, and both of them take place, or at least start, as far as the second one, in Philly or in the Philadelphia area. The first of which is Tumbling by Diane McKinney Whetstone. This book takes place in South Philly in the 40s. Noon and Herbie are deeply in love and living in a tightly knit African-American neighborhood in South Philadelphia during the 1940s, but their marriage remains unconsummated because of a horrible incident in Noon's past. So each seeks comfort elsewhere. Noon in the warm acceptance of the neighborhood church, Herbie in the arms of Ethel, a jazz singer. Then one day an infant girl is left on their doorstep, and later Ethel blesses them with her 5-year-old niece. Suddenly and unexpectedly of family, Herbie, Noon, and their 2 girls draw closer until an outside threat reawakens a fire in Noon, causing her to rise up and fight to hold her family and her community together. Diane McKinney Whetstone's Tumbling is a poignant, exquisitely rendered story of the ties that bind us and the secrets that keep us apart. This cover is really what drew me. This author was recently, the other day, what's today? Saturday? Thursday, hosting a signing of Burn Down Master's House by Clay Kane at Barnes & Noble. That I got this in Center City, and I was going to go, but this weather said that's really cute. So Burn Down Master's House is another book I would love to read this year, and I mean this month, and I probably would put it on the TBR if I had gone to said book signing, or the other signing that was hosted by Uncle Bobby's. That was like at the end of January, but once again the snow said that's really adorable, but I don't own it, so I don't know. And the last book is Devil is Fine by John Bircher, and this book is really intriguing to me. This follows a biracial man who, after a sudden tragedy, he receives this letter from an attorney letting him know that he has just inherited land. He's inherited this land from his white grandfather. So he takes a trip down south. He has the intention of immediately selling this land and just moving on. He gets down there and discovers he is now the black owner of a former plantation that is passed down to the men of his white mother's bloodline. Virtue definitely blurs the lines. Virtue definitely blurs the lines between real and imagined, past and present, tragedy and humor, and fathers and sons in this story of discovering and reclaiming a painful past. With the wit and rawness of Paul Beatty's The Sellout, Devil is Fine is a gripping, surreal, and brilliantly crafted dissection of the legacies we leave behind and those we inherit. I'm intrigued. I'm very much intrigued. So, I think I did it. Those are the books that I have planned, I have lined up. That's my possibility pile for February. Another book I would love to read but don't have right now is Kindred by Octavia Butler. That is on my TBR for 2026, so I will be reading it at some point this year. But yeah, let's see. Let's cross our fingers and see how many of these books I actually get through. Happy Black History Month. Let me know down below what your favorite book by a Black author is, and if you are reading anything interesting this month by a Black author. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down below so you can follow me and I'll follow you back. And I'll see you very soon.